Hello viewers, Ford DIYers here with an tutorial video for everyone. In this particular video here I'll be doing a demonstration on how to change the power steering fluid on your vehicle. Also don't forget to check out my website at www.forddiyers.com or click on the link in the description below. If you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to my channel for future tutorial videos. Just like any other fluids in your vehicle, power steering fluid also needs to be changed as it does break down over time, losing its lubricating, heat transfer, and power efficiency qualities. Some power steering systems use a form of hydraulic fluid, and others will use an automatic transmission fluid. This will be dependent on what your vehicle manufacturer specifies. There are some vehicles which never had the fluid replaced, which can greatly increase the risk of components failing in the system, and can be very costly to repair in the end. As for maintenance intervals, this does depend between the manufacturers, but as a generalized figure, it should be at around 60,000 kilometers, 40,000 miles, or every 3 years. Old or worn fluid can cause problems besides premature failure on the system parts, which can include power steering pump whining, hard steering, and generating more heat. When opening up the reservoir, older fluid may appear to be darker in color and can also smell burnt. Fresh fluid is normally a bright red, but this will depend between manufacturers, as I have seen some green as well. In order to replace the fluid, procedures will vary slightly between vehicles. First, you'll need to determine what type of fluid your vehicle does take along with the capacity of the system. For my vehicle, this is a 1997 BMW 540i which uses a Dexron 3 ATF and requires just under 2 quarts. But instead of using a factory fluid, I will be upgrading it to a compatible synthetic version. This is based on personal preference. Synthetic is a better quality fluid, but with that also has an increased cost. First, ensure your vehicle has reached operating temperature so the fluid will be easier to drain. Elevate the vehicle safely, either by jacking it up and using axle stands or using ramps. If you have a higher vehicle such as a truck, you may be able to do this with leaving the vehicle on the ground. The next part does not apply to all vehicles, unfortunately. With this particular vehicle, the power steering pump is equipped with a drain similar to what is found on your engine oil, which does make the fluid replacement much easier. Other vehicles will be required to remove the power steering line, either off the pump or steering rack, depending on which is the lowest point on the vehicle. Most power steering pumps are found higher up on the engine, therefore the power steering lines off the steering rack does need to be removed instead. I will be showing how to remove the power steering line for fluid replacement in the future and go more in depth. Here you can see the power steering line. Now here you can see the drain plug. Ensure the area around the plug is clean and place the drain under the area, then remove it using the required tools. For this vehicle, an Allen head socket is required. Sometimes you may be required to loosen the power steering reservoir cap to allow air into the system for draining. I would recommend wearing rubber gloves for this procedure as it does allow for easy cleanup, especially when we will be operating the steering wheel in a moment. We can remove the oily gloves and our hands will remain clean underneath. Here I have nitrile rubber gloves which are made by Permatex. They are particularly great for people who are sensitive to latex as they are made of 100% synthetic rubber instead. They feature a thicker layer which is very durable, does not contain any powder, and are chemical resistant. Do not start the engine when replacing the fluid to push the remainder fluid out of the system. If you do start the engine with no fluid in the system, you do risk damaging the pump or causing premature failure. The power steering pump operates on very tight clearances, so it doesn't take much to damage the unit, which can also be very costly to replace. Depending on the design of your system, you may be required to elevate the rear of your vehicle so it sits somewhat level, and the fluid will drain out at the lowest point. Carefully turn the steering from lock to lock, right and left. This will help push the fluid out of the steering rack. Either on ramps or elevated using a jack, make sure your vehicle doesn't walk over to an extreme extent. Next, taking a look inside the reservoir, most vehicles are equipped with a filter. It's harder to see, but there is a cylinder-shaped object in the bottom, which is the filter on this vehicle. These can be replaced, clean, or left as is. Some vehicles can have the filter replaced, while others are a one-piece unit with the reservoir, which tend to be a little more costly to replace. Just a close-up look of the drain plug. This one is equipped with a reusable O-ring. Inspect for any damage. If there is damage, then replace it to the appropriate size. Other vehicles may have another form of a gasket or seal which may be reusable or must be replaced. Once the fluid is finished draining, wipe off both the sealing surface on the drain plug and on the bottom of the pump, then reinstall. Ensure it's tight and torque it to the correct specifications. Refill the system with new fluid. As you can see, the new fluid is a vibrant red. You will notice bubbling in the reservoir, which is perfectly normal. Add until it's between the minimum and maximum lines on the fill level indicator. In this case, there is a dipstick on the reservoir cap. Sometimes you can turn the steering from full lock to lock, right and left, which will push some air out of the system with the engine off. The final step is bleeding the power steering system. Do not drive the vehicle without bleeding the system, as we do risk damaging the pump. But we can remove the vehicle from the ramps or being elevated using a jack. The bleeding procedure is fairly simple. With the engine running and the vehicle on level ground, I'll leave the cap on but loose to prevent any fluid from bubbling out. Turn the steering from lock to lock, right and left. about 4 times each way, until the air has been bled out of the system. Keep an eye on the fluid level and add when needed. You will notice the fluid cavitating, which is perfectly normal. As you can see, the fluid appears to be a pinkish color in the reservoir here, which is air present in the fluid. This will eventually disappear once the air is gone from the system, and it may take a few minutes. Turn the wheel again. It should turn smoothly each way, and the pump should not whine if it's still in good condition. This concludes the rest of my tour video. If you have any comments or questions, please don't hesitate to post them below. Also, please subscribe to my channel and like my video. Thank you for watching.